Okay.
In the second portion of the meeting, we're hearing from Peter Snyder of Efficiency Vermont, having to do with modern construction, energy efficiency, and alternative types of manufactured housing. Peter, is there any documents that, do you need to reference any of the documents that I posted online? Or you also, do you want to share your screen?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen, and we can reference the documents if it's needed.
Okay, just a second. Do you need to give him?
I'm going to make him a co-host.
We're making you a co-host.
You're all set.
Great.
I did put some documents up under, I believe it's either Efficiency Vermont on the reports and resources page that might be helpful as well. So go ahead, Peter, why don't you introduce yourself for the, just your name and organization, and go ahead.
Great. Peter Schneider is senior consultant at Efficiency Vermont. So I've been with VEIC Efficiency Vermont for the last 20 years. And just before Tropical Storm Irene, I had started really focusing on factory built housing. And that Tropical Storm Irene was a real catalyst to dig in even deeper, and have been focused in that sector ever since. So help sort of initiate and run our zero energy modular program for mobile home replacement, and have been doing that since Tropical Storm Irene. And then, in parallel, been working on, alternative solutions, just trying to make affordable housing more accessible. And that's only become, more difficult and more critical in the last few years. So what I wanted to share today was just an overview of the work that we're doing in the manufactured home sector, the sort of bringing lessons learned from the past decade plus, working in the space of trying to fill mobile home park lots with new, energy efficient, healthy, comfortable, durable homes. So just want to make sure everybody can see my screen first.
Yes, we're good.
Yep. And if I just want also, folks, feel free, if it's Charlene or whomever who wants to interrupt me, I'm happy to, take questions, comments throughout. And I have about 30 slides, which I was going to move through, kind of quickly, but we could stop at any point. The end of my slides is just to give an idea of the type of work we're providing to the manufacturers of manufactured homes today, as Efficiency Vermont launches an advanced manufactured home program, which I'll highlight. So any questions right off the bat, or if there's a wish list in regards to topics you'd like me to discuss as well, I'm more than happy to check those boxes as well.
You said in an email, you said your presentation was about 30 minutes?
Yep, exactly.
My only thought is if you could go a little slower, because there's a lot of technical stuff in here and you're comfortable with it, but some of us aren't. So we have more than 30 minutes. So take your time with it. And certainly people interrupt with questions if you're beginning to have difficulty. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just say I was just providing, I did, see all the task force members before the meeting. Some of you are far more, have far greater expertise in some of my earlier slides where I'm just sort of highlighting this demographic and also some challenge into space, making home ownership or even putting rental units in our parks a bit of a challenge. So, feel free to jump in if you have some additional insights you'd like to share. So, again, just really highlighting, who's in our mobile home parks. This is, something we looked at way long ago, when we started thinking about how we were going to meet all the different goals in regards to filling up vacant lots, replacing old, whether they're abandoned homes or they're just homes beyond their useful life. So, and then, really looking at Oh, just the complexity in regards to the age of this housing stock. And you can see that, 2/3 of the housing was built pre-1994. There's a really great Harvard study, which shows that, the homes between 76 and 1994 actually have a lot more maintenance issues than some pre-1976. And so we're really at sort of the end of the useful life of those homes, pre-1994, regardless of how well they were installed, and very few were installed on frost protected foundations in our climate back in the early 90s, and that only makes, sort of that aging, it only increases the pace, as that home's sort of moving and bending and twisting on an annual basis. So just the idea, we've got, a majority of folks are below 80% area median income, and we have a lot of homes that need to be replaced. And, what that illustrates is just, there's a high burden on maintenance, energy, maybe health issues associated with this older housing stock. So just as we look at, where costs are, folks' affordability in regards to accessing home ownership, as we look at that, but this is all recent, data from folks on this call. But you can see we've got $333,000 as for 2020, 2021, just to deploy a multifamily apartment unit through our tax credit program. We've got average Vermont home value, almost $400,000. And those missing projects, we're on our second phase of funding now. Those square foot costs, they're almost misrepresentative because, half the projects are Habitat for Humanity projects, with volunteer labor and preferred materials. And while our Habitat partners are doing a great job building really great houses, their cost per square foot is subsidized, beyond the Missing Middle program as well, with their model, their construction. You can just see pricing's really high. So, you start doing the math for 1,000 square foot home, and we're quickly beyond what's affordable to the folks that are living in our mobile home parks, with thinking about typical construction. So we've got our income limits there, and I just did a quick little bit of math. So, $1,500 for that house at today's terms. And, again, we know all about the complexities in regards to getting a 30-year fixed mortgage in park, and we can speak to that. And I know you're just getting off a call talking about some of that complexity, but we've been able to leverage the USDA Rural Development 502 loan product for a lot of our zero energy modular projects in approved parks. But still, without talking about energy costs, without talking about insurance and water sewer bills and property taxes, just $1,500 to carry a 30-year mortgage today for a $245,000 house. And of course, we know that down payment's also challenging as well. So, how do we drive that number down? I use that 245 because that's really, that's obviously much lower than our average available home. Living in Addison County, Middlebury, we don't have any coming on the market in that range. So what we've been doing, and I'm just going to highlight this Shires housing project, is working with our affordable housing partners and beginning to really evaluate available lots in our parks. And so this is one. There's actually homes. The first homes are getting delivered today. All 7 homes you see highlighted in red, or sites, I should say, home sites. Those will be all filled by Wednesday, which is pretty exciting. The occupancy should be sometime in November. And, you can see some of these sites had abandoned homes on them. In fact, 5 of the 7 had abandoned homes. So, and there's 3 more available lots here to even add additional housing units and really transform this park. If anybody's been to this park, this is right in the commercial sector of Bennington, right across from Walmart, right behind the Pizza Hut parking lot. You can see Dunkin' Donuts there, O'Reilly Auto Parts. There's the new Rotary that sits right on that, sort of right above old Route 7. So that's where this park is located. It's definitely walkable to that area of Bennington. And this park was in dire need of an uplift. And again, we had, 7, probably 10 lots that could be additional revenue stream for Shires Housing to make this park more affordable for them to manage and own. And so we're in the process of doing that. So in addition to the housing that we'll be adding here, I'll get into the details on that. They're also have paved the driveways throughout, the roadways throughout, upgraded infrastructure on all of the sites. Of course, they removed the old homes and slabs that had been abandoned. So there's all new foundation systems. And yeah, pretty impressive site. New fencing along what was a railroad track, which is now being converted into a trail system. So this will be, this is a really comprehensive approach to revitalizing our parks, which I think is critical, thinking about not just filling vacant lots, but also. So this gives you an idea of,
Okay.
what.
Excuse me?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Just a quick question on these lots. Are they buying these homes or?
These will be rental units, not specifically for folks coming out of the motel hotel program, but they will be serving, vulnerable families that have been experiencing housing insecurity. That's the plan, but it's not, the funding through VHCV is not committed typically to motel hotel program.
So the Shires will own these and rent them to individuals?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
And we're thinking about the other few lots potentially with regards to the missing middle program to continue mixing in home ownership opportunities while we're doing that, which I can also talk about with Housing Foundation Incorporated, our state housing authorities developer wing. So we're doing some housing with them throughout their parks. They were approved for 16 homes across 4 parks. So that is certainly an option here. Initially, we were talking about that, doing 4 homes with the low-income rental model, with Shires owning them, and then the next 3 to 6 would be home ownership. So we moved forward with the 7 for rental and anticipate the next 3 may be home ownership.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter, what is the name of the park?
This is the Willows Mobile Home Park, Willows on Emma Street. Yep.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, Willows.
Oh, okay, Willows. Yeah.
Yep. So Shires has owned that for a while now. I don't know the exact time, but better part of the last decade. And so, what we did is we worked alongside civil engineer, Scott McCusick, who's the clerk of the works on this project, obviously Shires, to develop a site plan, house designs, and just really identified the best way to utilize each of the available lots. And initially this was funded for 4 zero energy modular homes. I'll speak to some of the challenges of the costs associated with that product. But I had proposed, when this new zero energy ready home standard came out for manufactured homes, I had proposed the idea of exploring doing more manufactured homes as opposed to the 4 zero energy modular homes. And that is how this became 7 units instead of 4 as we transitioned to the less expensive housing approach. But again, as I'll show, there's not, our hope is, long term, that this isn't a compromise. This is just a real benefit to take this other path. So you can see we need to think about where the solar is going to go, where the heat pumps will go, where the infrastructure, the red dots you see there, that's where the main water line comes in. So as we're thinking about utilizing these vacant lots in mobile home parks, we do need to think about the exact house that's going to go on there. and how the new infrastructure will be best installed to meet the floor plan of those homes, to simplify things and keep costs down. So,
Peter?
yes,
Can I just ask a question?
please.
Is there a typical reason why the homes become abandoned?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole assortment of reasons, and you know, Sean Sandrine will probably be able to go through a longer list than I can, but certainly I know folks have been behind on property taxes. I know people have just no longer can handle the burden, energy burden, maintenance burden of the house. They can't sell it to anybody because it's not worth anything, but yet if they stayed there and honestly didn't leave, quote unquote, in the middle of the night, they would be burdened with having to recycle that home. And that could be upwards of $10,000 to deal with the removal of the home. So a lot of folks do just abandon those homes, so they're not burdened with that additional cost, which most can't afford anyway.
Thank you.
I don't know if Sandrine or Sean, anybody else wants to jump in with any other reasons, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are more. Okay. So you can see, I'm really working hard to get a great manufactured home. So a home that meets the HUD manufactured housing construction and safety standard. Until this year, I really didn't feel like we could get a home that I felt was suitable to install in Vermont, you know, with state federal funding. Really felt like the standard was lower with regards to durability, indoor air quality, comfort, and we didn't really have a great model in which to acquire these homes and set them in parks, which we're still working on. But I now feel like, you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel with regards to this new Department of Energy standard that we're working with. And honestly, the willingness of the manufacturers, in part due to a $5,000 tax credit that goes to the manufacturing plant, that they are willing partners in improving their home standards. And so when you look back to those, you know, mid 90s, you can see across the country, over 350,000 units per year. Ever. We just broke 100,000 homes last year for the first time, you know, since, you know, back in the, you know, 2000, I guess that's 2007, 2006. So shipments are going up. And I think that with this new standard and the tax credits and hopefully some better lending opportunities, we're going to see this housing option enter the market at higher numbers, higher penetration than the past couple of decades. And so I feel like, you know, we need to be really proactive in regards to the type of houses that coming out of this sector that we're promoting and funding. So this gives you an idea what a manufacturing plant looks like. This is the Champion Skyline Titan Homes plant based in Sangerfield, New York, which is just outside of Utica. And this is a corporation out of Detroit that owns 34 plants across the country, of which this is one. That gives you an idea of the assembly line. That's called side saddle assembly line, where all those houses are running along that assembly line lengthwise. You can't see it, but they're on caster wheels, and there's chains attached to each of those housing units. And you know, every few hours that line shifts about 5 houses, and they're doing around 7. They call it 7 floors per day, but basically 7 of those modules per day are going out the door and getting delivered. Some of those are single wide homes and some are double wide homes, but they're all manufactured homes. It's on the steel chassis. So this gives you an idea of the floor plan of, we have 3 different floor plans that we're delivering to Shires. These are going to be very typical across all of our mobile home parks. And some of that will be due to some forward thinking of organizations like HFI that are combining 2 single wide lots to create more of the wide lots that accommodate, you know, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch home instead of our long sort of 13-foot by 70-foot home. But this is just gives you an idea, very simple. This home comes completed, more or less. 2 boxes will come together. We'll have to patch in some siding on the gable ends, tie the roof together. But overall, all the finishes on the interior are done. All the flooring's down, all the sheetrock is completed. You can get it with all the appliances. We happen to be installing the appliances in Bennington on site to buy them locally from a retailer, which I think is a great approach. But yeah, these homes, after day one of their set, they do feel like, you know, they're 90% complete, if not more. So this is your typical single wide home. You can see 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms. You've got your, you know, washer, dryer, nice kitchen, living, dining space. These are livable units. I've been, you know, in and out of these homes, new and old, for, you know, the past 12, 15 years. And a lot of happy homeowners and renters utilizing these spaces. And a lot of folks, this is what they know. They've grown up in the parks in long, narrow homes that are sort of compartmentalized, as you've seen, but you know, they've either grown to love them and have, you know, wanted to replace their home with the exact same plan that they have now when that time comes. Just to give you an idea of this is just from the Ascend brochure, which is out of that plant in Sangerfield, New York. This is that same floor plan I showed you, but to give an idea of the elevation that is an option. That's what the solar looks like on the roof, and I'll talk a bit more about that. And then this is what a single wide can look like as well. There's all different variations with regards to window configuration, dormers, roof pitch. Really, the width of the homes and the roof pitch pretty much stays standard because you have to travel down the road basically under 14 feet wide and under 13.5 feet tall on a trailer. So there are no ways around that really in this space. So the roof pitch has to be very shallow if they're going to deliver a home with a completed roof. There is the option to put a hinged roof on where you can get a steeper pitch roof on the 2-box homes that come together, the double wides. But that's a much more expensive additional item factory, and obviously it requires a lot more labor on site as well to complete that home. So it's an additional cost burden that often just isn't accessible. This is where I'll take a little bit more time. What this chart shows, and you can ignore the numbers unless you really like to dig into R values and U values and duct leakage per square foot. But what this shows from left to right is basically we have our assembly, which is all of our specifications, the different categories from wall insulation levels to our heating and cooling system to duct leakage. And then as you move across the chart, we're going from the new HUD manufactured housing and construction safety standard. Yes. Oh, did somebody have a question?
No, I think you're good.
Okay, sorry. And so we have that new HUD construction standard. Then we have the new Energy Star manufactured home standard. Then we have ZERH, will always mean Zero Energy Ready Home Standard. And then we have Efficiency Vermont EVT 3.0. So that is our standard for stick-built homes, modular homes that also come out of a factory, but they don't reside on a steel chassis and they don't fall under the HUD preemptive federal standard. They fall under our local codes. And panelized construction, which is when a home is delivered in a bunch of panels on the back of a tractor trailer, and you may have seen that. It's all crane set or with lifts. Those homes are put together. They take a bit more time, but they're still also factory built, at least a portion of them. So I want to just highlight that as of today, the Manufactured Housing Institute, which is a sort of manufacturers lobbying group, they sued the Department of Energy to postpone the rollout of the HUD Manufactured Housing Construction Safety Standard, which was required to go into place years ago now. They finally adopted a rule last year. It was supposed to be in place as of May this year, but they delayed that rollout. for probably about 2 years. And this was just pressure from the industry that we need to relook at this standard. We need to determine, how we're going to do quality control and enforcement. And at the same time, unfortunately, the Energy Star version 3 standard was postponed as well. Fortunately, as a result of the IRA, there is a $2,500 tax credit for that Energy Star version 3 standard and a $5,000 tax credit for the ZERH standard that is in place. And we've seen adoption in the manufactured housing industry to actually meet those standards, to earn those tax credits and offer those products. And so we've been able to take advantage of that, which is really exciting. So, I think if you just looked under Energy Star MH version 3, the double wide, you see R21 walls, R33 floors, so on and so forth there. I think, you can see that our Efficiency Vermont standard is higher across, this is our voluntary standard that, our partners enroll in when they're building homes, townhomes. Our multifamily standard's very similar. And so this is still a higher standard than even the ZERH standard. But what I'm going to show you is that we developed a target standard that sort of exceeds the minimum standards for ZERH and gets us to a place where we're very close to our local Efficiency Vermont standard. So the ZERH standard is made up of 3 exhibits, basically 3 sections. And what I like about this standard, because it builds on the Energy Star standard, so exhibit 1 and 2 are identical between Energy Star version 3 and ZERH. The difference is that in Energy Star, our exhibit 2, you'll see, only applies to double wide homes. It doesn't apply to single wide homes. And there is no exhibit 3 in Energy Star. So it's a much lower standard, and it differentiates between folks that can only afford a single wide and folks who can afford a more expensive home, a double wide. So they have higher requirements that lead to less of an energy burden, less of a maintenance burden, better indoor air quality for those folks that can afford a multi-section home. And so we landed on the ZERH standard because it treats all homes the same. I should also note that the new HUD standard, when it rolls out, will also differentiate between single wide and double wide homes. I'll just jump back to this. That's why I have a column for single wide under HUD 2023 and double wide. They actually differentiate between the two. You can see that under Energy Star as well, though under ZERH, all homes are treated the same way. Okay, so this exhibit 1 is just the R values I've highlighted in yellow. That's our climate zone 3. We have to either hit those prescriptive, those wall, floor, ceiling, insulation levels, the door and window U values, or you can calculate your overall basically insulation level of your home as well and meet that overall U value, which you see there is either 0.057 or 0.054, depending on whether you're a single or multi-section home. And then exhibit 2 really gets into the majority of it is HVAC equipment, hot water, fixtures, but it also provides a credit for getting a better insulative value. So better windows and insulation values here. So this ZERH MH version 1, this is sort of your standard. You have to earn 18 points, and this would represent sort of the least cost and easiest way to get there. For a fuel heat home, you could put in a heat pump water heater, put in a heat pump, better insulation levels, and you actually get points for meeting that first exhibit, the requirements in exhibit 1. If it's all electric, you can see you can just put in a heat pump and you'll meet it with your requirements in exhibit 1. What we've done, and this actually aligns with what the industry is doing, is we just chose very simple, what I would call no-brainer measures that really don't add much cost to the first cost of the home. And we've been able to improve the insulation levels in the windows and doors. We've put in a heat pump water heater, the highest efficiency. And then they're already in the industry doing the LED lighting, the low flow fixtures, and we're purchasing the appliances. We'll have our Energy Star refrigerator, dishwasher, and clothes washer. We're also doing an induction oven range and a ventless heat pump dryer. So we even have some measures that go beyond what are called out in the Zero Energy Ready Home Standard. But what I'm going to highlight in regards to our modeling and our cost effectiveness is this target standard. And I should say that the largest manufacturer of manufactured homes in the country, Clayton Homes, their closest plant is in Lewiston, Pennsylvania, but they represent about 65% of the manufactured homes built in this country. They have 38 or 39 plants across the country, and they're exceeding the ZERH standard as well. And they have certified every one of those 38 plants across the country, and they're delivering those ZERH homes as sort of standard practice right now.
I do have a question, Peter.
Sure.
This is Wendy Harrison. When you look at the value of this to the homeowner, I mean, obviously it's lower cost for the environment, it's better. Is there ever like points for health, or is that discussed among you folks? Just health and safety. I'm just thinking a lot of the more ecological sources like heat. I mean, heat pumps are safer than propane. There's a lot of benefits to indoor air quality. When you look at induction stoves, they're much safer than gas stoves, both in terms of fire and just health again. Do those conversations ever come up? And I'm just thinking of it in terms of possibly finding other sources of funding to support these efforts, because there is a fair amount of money in the health industry.
There is. Yeah, it's a great, right? That intersection of energy efficiency and healthcare, and a lot more money in healthcare.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. And yes, and I will jump into Exhibit 3 very soon here, but that is where there are a lot of measures that are required. Exhibit 3 is kind of the devil in the details. That is where there are 16 different categories just for what happens in the factory that require all sorts of upgrades to the typical HUD home and the Energy Star home as well, because it doesn't have an Exhibit 3, where you're required to have better ventilation. You're required, they talk about moisture management, talking about hard surfaces, not having any carpet in your wet areas, entryways, kitchens, bathrooms, mechanical rooms, that kind of thing. So, and then of course the durability measures as well, reducing the potential for mold and mildew, just honestly, and we don't talk about it very much, but what I see time and time again in our mobile home parks and in our mobile home owners is stress. And that is a lot of it's energy burden, to be perfectly honest, like these $600 bills that they have, or when they're going to have to fill that kerosene tank again, or they're plugging in the electric space heaters and have these electrical building up. So stress is huge. And, we've spent a lot of time with Ryan Garrity, both at CVOEO and then when he was with us at Efficiency Vermont, Phoebe Howe as well, in and out of these homeowners' homes. And you cannot underscore the opportunities to improve health, reduce stress through housing here. So
Great.
It's a complete piece.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
So so you can see here, this is what we can do. Now, there are limitations to working within this manufactured home industry. I have, back when Tropical Storm Irene hit, I was already working on this zero energy modular project. I had been aware of the manufactured housing industry, but honestly, our weatherization agencies supported that space almost exclusively. I'd have to go back and even see what programs Efficiency Vermont had, but we really, if anything, CVOEO and other weatherization agencies could leverage maybe like new appliances and some smaller programs. But as far as like the whole manufactured housing sector, we were sort of we were separated from really working with those homeowners and our park owners until Irene. And so this is where we've been able to get. This is 12 plus years of work with our manufactured housing industry and of course partners like Department of Energy with whom we work closely to get to a point where we can get a home that reflects this standard. Now, you'll notice right off the bat, we are still not where our voluntary program is at Efficiency Vermont for stick-built modular homes, but we're very close. And we've proven this now. I just did performance testing and an inspection on the first ZERH home that actually was for a flood victim in Berlin that was delivered and set by one of our mobile home retailers and installers, Spectel Homes, not far from the State House. And that home performed very well, and a significant improvement when compared to the best home that home buyer could have gotten last year at this time. So the 7 homes that we're getting for the Willows Park in Bennington will reflect this standard. So we have really good insulation levels throughout the wall, ceiling, and floors, as you can see. Really good windows, doors, very tight. In fact, we've exceeded these numbers with tightness on the homes that we've tested or are right there. So we're proving that we can make this work in the manufactured housing setting, getting an airtight, comfortable home. And we're putting in the best of best equipment. We're actually right now doing the cold climate heat pump, which is a ducted heat pump. So instead of a furnace delivering hot air throughout, we have a downdraft cold climate heat pump with really a Mitsubishi system, sort of best of the best in regards to durability, warranty, performance. And we've been installing those for over a decade now with a lot of luck, and our HVAC industry has really transitioned. I think every HVAC partner now is refrigerant certified and is able to not only design this equipment for installations, but install it and then maintain it down the road, troubleshoot heat pump related issues when for decades, right? They were great at troubleshooting oil and gas boilers and furnaces, but we've really turned the corner there. So we have the best of the best equipment there, and then we have all of our ducts insulated and in conditioned space with really no leakage. It was amazing how tight the duct work is, and that's in part how they manufacture the duct systems, the distribution that delivers the hot air and cool air to the houses. And then you can see the 100% LED lights and Energy Star appliances. So this is what we're achieving today. And before I just show you sort of the sort of energy cost and energy use comparison, I'll just highlight what Exhibit 3 looks like. So in addition to having all those great values that you just saw in the chart, we have all of these measures that are outlined and have to be inspected in the plan. So I won't go into the details here, but it's like reducing the wall, in the amount of framing in your wall assembly to increase the amount of insulation. That's what reducing wall thermal bridging is. They call that advanced framing. And, we have your roof, your truss heel is what sits out over your wall. If you think about, you have your ridge of your roof, and then as you go down, that's your eave, which sits down over your exterior wall. And that's where icicles form, right? And we get ice damming. That's where a lot of heat loss occurs. So this program requires that you have at least 5.5 inches. And in fact, we're exceeding that with our homes. And you just get more insulation over that wall. You eliminate that additional heat loss that happens there, and you eliminate all the issues that are associated with icicles and ice damming. water damage and hence mold and mildew, coming back to, really reducing concerns about health-related issues with poor design characteristics, like having hardly any insulation in that area. So this is just one. As I said, there are 16 factory installed sections, of which there are multiple measures. As you can see here, this is just air sealing, really tightening up the belly underneath the home. You know how they're sitting up on a steel chassis. There's this black fiber reinforced plastic. Every hole has to be sealed. That plastic needs to be sealed all the way around the perimeter. All penetrations have to be closed up so we don't have, in the wintertime, cold air migrating in to the home through, different pathways from underneath the home, which is very common, or we have hot, humid air doing the exact same thing and causing condensation issues, water damage, and so forth in the summertime. And the last characteristic here, or the last measure, excuse me, is PV ready, which I think is really important. This entire housing sector has not had renewable energy, at least roof mounted solar PV or solar thermal for that matter, back when we did that, available to them, because the roofs were not built borderline just to meet our snow loads, but were not capable of carrying a solar system. So this does not require that the roof truss meet the loads that we need here, but there is a willingness within the industry sector to actually have a solar ready truss in addition to all of these other characteristics that you need, so the home is ready from an electrical standpoint to have a solar PV system. Our homes in Bennington will all have solar. That's the plan with our Housing Foundation Incorporated as well. And so we have an upgraded truss that the factories are open to doing. And we have the structural engineering to support it. And we have the PV designs, which I showed earlier, to really maximize the roof surface and hopefully generate almost as much as these homes utilize. So a lot of bars here, but I want to start on the far left and then I'm going to go to the far right. We don't need to worry about what's in the middle. But this is actually, a bunch of weatherization data on the far left of existing manufactured homes out there in the field from audits. And you can see the next slide will show you costs, but this just gives you an idea of the amount of energy that our single and double wide homes are using on an annual basis. These are all about 1,000 square foot homes. And just for comparison's sake, this is the equivalent of about a 2,600 square foot, stick built home in regards to energy usage. So these use a significant amount more energy on an annual basis. Those MMBTUs there, 100 for the single wide, about 120 for the double wide. And you can see the reduction in energy burden when you just slide over to the far right. You can look at the double wide characteristic of an all electric home. So that ZERH target is getting us down, in the about 30 million BTUs an hour range. So it's a huge reduction in energy usage to replace an existing manufactured home with one of these new zero energy ready homes. This is not including solar. I just want to make sure that's clear. If we were to put solar on this roof, you'll see in a couple of slides from now, we can almost cover that full energy burden with a solar installation. And the other thing I'll note is the farthest right bar on that chart is our Efficiency Vermont 3.0 standard, which is our zero energy modular standard. And you can see we're only about 10 million BTUs per year behind that Efficiency Vermont standard, which, and this is a pretty good number, is about twice the cost of a manufactured home. And again, we can talk about that in more detail, but that's, economies of scale, volume purchasing. We're talking about a factory that's rolling out 7 homes a day versus even our modular factories are maybe doing 1 home per day. But certainly stick built, there's a whole different cost structure there with regards to how folks are paid. They're not assembly line workers, right? These are now carpenters getting, $50 an hour, and as opposed to $20 an hour as an assembly line worker in a factory in Utica, New York. So this is just the cost. And this is actually some of you may have, or maybe even pre-buying propane right now or have. You can see our electricity, that's on the low side, kilowatt hour, 18 cents. We certainly have a number of different utilities that are more than that now. And the $3 per gallon propane, that's an average over the last, may not even be the average anymore over the last 4 years. So that's a pretty low cost per gallon. So you can imagine how much higher the costs are on the far left there for those existing homeowners and even the folks getting into the new HUD homes versus what we could do with our ZERH target home.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, so this just can show you what solar PV can do. So this is about I think we have a 6,500 watt, 7,000 watt system on this house. That's about maximizing the roof surface. There's not a lot of roof surface. We're about 8 feet from ridge to eave on a single wide home. And again, the homes are 60, 65, 70 feet long. So you can really only put one module on that roof in portrait style across. That's the way to cover the most roof area there. And we're getting to just about 6,800 watts there. So that's the most solar we could put on the roof, and that's what we're doing. There are some setback requirements. Our fire safety guidelines need to be updated to the newer standards, but there are some setbacks that limit the amount of PV we can put on a roof surface as well. But you can see, even with all that included, with our target, we can almost eliminate the energy burden on these homes. There will be a electricity service fee on a monthly basis. We all pay that, $25 to $30 a month, depending on the time of the year. But beyond those, are the generation from the solar, roof-mounted solar should produce about as much as the home uses. And again, that's an average. We see people use 20% less than our modeling would indicate, even with all the refinements, and 20% more. And then you've got the folks right in the middle that are operating the house, based on the assumptions. They haven't added additional freezers or, are cooling with their windows open and things of that nature. There's, or just having a higher set point, right? Some people like to live at 76 degrees and 65 degrees in the summer. And so that'll skew, the actual energy usage and cost, but on average. So this just gives you an idea of the cost of that 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch home, which I showed that illustration earlier, what that looks like. 3 of our homes going to Bennington reflect this exact floor plan. It's great for solar. It's very livable. Great family housing, 2 full baths. We've got, integrated, everything's integrated in that living space. So we've got our heat pump, our hot water heating, our stackable washer dryer, everything's right there in the conditioned living space. You put a small deck porch off of this, for a grill and sort of a protected entry. And this is highly desirable. And we can do that, as you can see, around the $150,000 mark on a lot in a park. And that's with all of these. The first 3 line items represent what you would basically pay the factory for the home. And then we have the foundation work on site. The freight is the delivery of the home. And then you have the installation. So that's your installer and what they would charge to basically set that home up, level it, plumb it, get all your utilities installed. And then we have the skirting to finish off and sort of, from an aesthetic standpoint, cover that trailer and something that you would put your stairs or deck and porch to. And then you have your solar appliances, and then those energy efficiency upgrades, which is putting in the heat pump, our fresh air ventilation system. ERV stands for energy recovery ventilator. So that's a unit that will sit in the main living space, and it'll bring in pre-filtered, preheated or cooled fresh air to the home continuously. So coming back to Wendy's point on health, we have a fresh air ventilation system with HEPA level filtration. So 24/7, it's bringing fresh air into the house and mixing that with the indoor air, and it's exhausting sort of the the moisture laden stale air from the living space at the same rate. So it's a really big benefit with regards to just indoor air quality and overall health. Heat pump water heater, better windows, and insulation. So I just want to highlight that, again, going back to our modular home, and we have some funded through the Missing Middle program. We have a very similar house here, you know, that's going to run around $300,000 as a modular home on a basement that we're doing. And I think everybody's free to see the Missing Middle staff recommendations to their board. I think that that's a public document. And you can look at, you know, the costs of a bunch of different approaches to affordable, sort of accessible home ownership housing right now. And a lot of it's townhomes and you know, sort of small multifamily, and still, you know, far exceeding, doubling the cost that you would see here for somebody to have their own, you know, 4 walls, roof on their own lot in one of our nonprofit mobile home parks. So the types of recommendations that I'm providing to folks in our factory setting is stuff like this. And I'm just don't need to see these, but they're like, hey, you got to do a better job with the distribution. We need to do a better job air sealing. This is what it looks like. There's all different applications where these things are otherwise ignored in this industry. So they just like throw that shower pan down, but they don't seal the P-trap that's underneath it at all. So that's a big leakage point and can be a real durability issue, you know, a decade from now. You know, sealing the roof system to the home itself. You know, they set these roofs down all sheetrocked. They're made in another station and they fly them in with a crane system and set them down on the home. It's a pretty remarkable process. And I know Kurt's working on setting up some factory tours. You know, making sure that that seal between the whole roof assembly and all that, you know, that 160 feet of perimeter is sealed really well to reduce heat loss in the winter, cooling losses in the summer. You know, how we're insulating things, making sure that we have really good protection of that insulation. You know, these homes are, we're hoping will last 100 years, but they're also traveling 300 miles to get to their house site. So we want to make sure all that insulation in the roof system's protected from, you know, 60-mile-an-hour gusts as that home's delivered down the road. You know, making sure the money that we're spending on our fans, that those fans are going to work really well by improving how they're ducted and making sure that there's not a lot of resistance to airflow. So when you turn an exhaust fan on, A, they're not noisy, but B, they're actually pulling the air out of the bathroom, which is their intention. If they're not ducted well, they can honestly, you know, they hardly pull any air out and they're not effective. So this comes back to just doing a really good job sealing that's that black plastic that I was talking about under the homes, making sure that those are really sealed well. There's a lot of work that happens on the assembly line and on site. You know, sort of honestly compromising that air barrier. So just making sure that it's really well done, both at the end of the factory assembly line and on site, making sure that air barrier stays in place and is not doesn't have a bunch of holes and rips in it. Sizing our framing to the right siding so we can maximize the amount of insulation we're putting in the walls. You know, we don't want big solid corners or big headers that are not needed. And then, you know, if you get an R24 batt insulation, which is, you know, better than the R19 batt insulation, which you see on the right, the R24 is on the left there. But like installing that well, if you don't install your fiberglass batts well in the wall, they'll perform at half of their rating. So an R19 batt might be R10 if you install it the way you see on the right there. We want to get the full value out of that insulation, and that requires some hand holding and some training in these factories, because you'd be amazed to watch the process. But on the left there, that gentleman in the gray t-shirt, he literally has a pole. It's like a broomstick with 2 nails at the end of it stuck. And that's how he installs the bat, you know, out of reach in the wall. He's hitting it and poking it. And you can imagine why it looks the way it does on the right. We need them to, and not to bore you with additional pictures here, so I left them out, but you know, you can make those fiberglass bats look perfect in there, like it was blown in insulation, and that's the goal. So, and it doesn't have to take too much more time, but So that's it. That sort of overview of the work that we're doing with them, and I'm happy to go back, revisit slides, answer any questions that folks have. But yeah, appreciate the time and the interest in the topic.
Very cool.
Yeah, very interesting.
I just have a quick question then.
Sure.
We can, see everybody. So if other folks have questions, are there sufficient folks in the areas where these homes are going up to maintain those facilities? Do the locals have the capability, expertise, knowledge to maintain those facilities? You know, the extra that you're putting in or that are being put in?
Yep. So just to use Bennington as an example, but we have, I want to say, our zero energy modular units. In fact, I just got a phone call from one of our first homeowners, and that was VHCB funded. Sean was a part of that process back in the day, coming out, like rolling out the ZEM program. One of our first homeowners just hit the 10-year mark last week, having been in that home. And that was part of the early pilot and replacement effort. In short, we are in a far better place today than we were then in regards to having contractors that can service and maintain these homes and all the systems. There's no problem in that space. Honestly, for me, the whole is the development capacity, like having the folks to deploy these homes at volume, and then the contractors to provide all that support on site to get the heat pumps installed and commissioned and the houses ready for occupancy. I think once the homes are occupied, again, coming back to Bennington, in Bennington, we have Hayden Plumbing and Heating doing all of the heat pumps and the fresh ventilation system. And they're going to service that equipment over the life of that equipment, and they're refrigerant certified, and they're, in this case, it's GE equipment. They're GE certified technicians. On the solar side, we're using Berkshire Solar Installer, and they're going to install solar on all 7 homes, and comes with a 25-year warranty, and they'll be servicing and monitoring those solar systems over the lifetime of those. I could go through each aspect of that, but you know, at the end of the day, as we know, our all of our nonprofit affordable housing providers that own mobile home parks have their property management companies either in-house or they subcontract that work out with in Hardwick with Lamoille Housing Partnership. They use Alliance. And what Efficiency Vermont's done over the 10 years we've had homes in the Evergreen Park in Hardwick, we've worked right alongside Alliance. You know, whenever there's any issue, we're sort of there along with them to just, again, they're all lessons learned for us. Like, why did this heat pump stop working? Was it a board issue? Was it a power surge? Why are these heat pump water heaters failing? Was it a hard water issue? Do we need to put softeners in these homes? I mean, I could go on, but it is really a collaboration. There's a learning curve, but again, I'll just note, we have a lot of those early ZEM homes out there in parks that are either homeowner maintained with subcontractors or property management company maintained. Addison County Community Trust has 14 of these in Waltham, and they're all doing great. I've been monitoring those and been out on site over the last decade, so I really feel like I'm comfortable deploying these types of homes with these technologies in parks across the state.
Great. Thank you very much. This is great.
Any other questions then? Yeah, go ahead, Polly.
And thanks, Peter, for that overview. It's really exciting to hear that the Willows units are getting delivered. I know we're excited about that project. I guess one thing I have heard about is manufactured homes being treated as depreciating assets versus a traditional home that's going to be an appreciating asset in most cases. And curious if the improvements to the quality of the home are maybe helping change that dynamic and might allow these to be appreciating assets for the owners moving forward. Do you have any kind of insight into that?
Yeah, there is data. So homes that over the last decade that have received the Energy Star rating, which wasn't that high of a bar, had sold at a higher level than just the HUD standard homes. I anticipate we'll see that with these new standards as they roll out. The ZER8 standard is in a whole nother tier on top, right? And I think this also comes back to, you know, how we're looking at our parks. And, you know, this honestly comes back to Gus Selig and him really wanting to see more comprehensive approaches to the parks. And we can't just throw a zero energy modular home in there. You know, it's a $250,000 home that's worth 5 times as much as, like, I'm not even going to say the average home, maybe the next most expensive home in the park. And we really need to look at the whole park and kind of revitalizing it, which is what we're doing in the Willows Park, is upgrading infrastructure, you know, repairing a fence that's falling down, taking out the blighted homes. I think that's a real critical piece to that appreciation depreciation conversation. Of course, nonprofit ownership of the parks and long leases on lots, leases in perpetuity or leases at least that extend to the length of the loan, you know, your 30-year mortgage. That's what USDA RD requires for that 502 loan. The parks have to get certified to be at least the same length, if not longer, of their loan term. And there's some other conditions in there as well. That really helps. The resident-owned community, USA, Rock New Hampshire, they have some great data on that transition from a depreciating asset to appreciating asset in their communities. More value of those homes because the land, those long leases are valued more. You know, as we know, of course, you know, the majority of appreciation is associated with the lot, even, you know, outside of these communities. And so there's no question that these nonprofit parks, whether they're cooperative or owned by one of our nonprofit housing partners, are more desirable. Their infrastructure is in better condition typically. You know, they know somebody's looking out for them, and they've got these leases that are often in perpetuity. And that really, you know, again, it's just a better picture for those homeowners. And I think there's more willingness to invest in those communities as well, to get people in to buy the lots or excuse me, lease the lots and buy new houses to put on those lots. So I think we're moving in that direction as we see more nonprofit ownership. And we see new, more comprehensive park revitalization efforts instead of just, you know, plugging one new home in on a vacant lot or two.
Okay. Go ahead, Gail.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The stick-built, you referred to stick-built modular home.
Yep.
Is that remains a mobile, movable home?
Well, they can be. So if it's stick built, it is not. So that would be, you know, you're getting all your framing lumber delivered to the site and you're just, you know, building up from the floor to the walls to the roof. That is not movable. So that's stick built not. A modular home, we've delivered hundreds of our modular units out of either Vermont and Wilder or Huntington Homes in East Montpelier. Those homes are delivered on a trailer in modules that are 14 feet by, on average, let's say 50, 60 feet long. And those are lifted by a crane off the trailer and set on a foundation. They could easily be lifted up off of those foundations, set on a trailer and taken somewhere else, but they don't stay on a trailer. And none of our modular homes have been moved. Nobody's really even looked at doing that. I think it would make, and even with manufactured homes, it's about $10,000 or so to move a home with everything you need to do on site to get the home ready to move. And this is a manufactured home that sits on a steel chassis. So again, coming back to the complexities of folks abandoning homes when they're beyond their useful life, that's part of it. Is like, they can't just have a truck come and hook onto the trailer and pull that to the nearest landfill. They actually have to deconstruct that house piece by piece on site because they're not, often those trailers no longer work with those older homes. They're not, the homes aren't structurally sound to move down the road again. Really, those trailers and the homes are built to move once. That's the short of it. So that said, they could be moved, and Arthur Hamlin would be a good resource for this, but I believe the data is about maybe 1% of homes are moved on an annual basis in this manufactured housing niche. And a lot of those are moved to be demolished. But if you go to any of our 9 or 10 mobile home retailers around the state, you will find used mobile homes on their lot. And those were homes that, you know, they put wheels back on and the hitch on that trailer. They removed the cinder blocks and all the piers that they're using to level and stabilize that home. And they've, you know, trailered that home right to their retailer lot to resell it again. It's honest. Yeah. Go ahead, Gail. I think you're still on mute, Gail.
Is that the end of your question, Gail, or is there more?
She's on mute. She still wants to
Yeah.
talk.
So this might be something Sandrine can weigh in on, or maybe it would be Arthur Hamlin, but it's my understanding that there's a criteria for a mobile home park that the home has to be mobile. No,
Well, Sandrine, you go ahead.
No,
Yeah, Sandrine, go ahead.
not necessarily mobile. It's not, the naming is not really the motion. It's more of the structure of the home. And for definition purposes, a mobile home is a home that is owned, but leased, but the land has to be leased. And there has to be at least 3 mobile homes in a park to be considered a mobile home park. So, you know, that for it to be a zero modular or not, it's not really, when it comes to that, it's not really an issue when it comes to that. Mobility is not necessarily.
Yeah, and I don't want to, oh, sorry, Sandrine.
Oh, no, go
No.
ahead.
Gail, I don't want to read too much into your question, but it is something that we've considered. So as you know, mobile home parks are treated under a certain piece of statute. And right now, there's no law forbidding a home that is not defined as a mobile home from going into a mobile home park. And we really don't know what would happen legally if you were to slowly, you know, get to a point where suddenly you had, say, what was a park is now full of modular homes that don't fit that definition. It's never happened before, and I think it's something that perhaps this task force might want to consider in their recommendations.
Yes, definitely clarification on that would be great.
And I would just add to that, Gail, just the reason that we're spending so much time with the manufactured home sector now, having a decade-long effort to deploy modular homes in parks, is these parks, as you probably know, are very tight, clustered homes, 20 feet between homes, some challenging infrastructure, you know, very difficult to excavate in these parks. There's a lot of legacy, electrical, plumbing, sewer, all sorts of stuff going on underneath the ground. We just found getting a crane into these parks, the additional cost of building these modular homes when compared to manufactured homes was just really getting to be, certainly over the last 3 years, cost prohibitive. There just is not enough subsidy, whether it's rental or home ownership, to be honest, not enough subsidy to make modular work in these parks, on top of all the complexities of getting these homes in there and actually getting them installed. And then you brought up the point of, like, what do we do if we want to move that home for one reason or another? So with the zero energy ready manufactured home, we feel like we found this sort of sweet spot where we have a really good standard, but we're keeping the price point down. We're working within the housing type that all these folks that live within the parks and even the park owners are used to. And they're just far easier to install and, you know, to support moving forward.
I have one more question and then a comment. The 3 bedrooms that you showed, wouldn't there in some parks be an issue with 3 bedrooms as far as septic capacity?
We haven't run into that yet. There is no shortage of septic related issues in parks with regards to capacity, even for the existing housing that's there. So that's a really good question. You know, we did in Bennington, we have 3 2-bedrooms and 4 3-bedrooms. That's on town water, town sewer there. They had this the sewer and water allotments that allowed for that. The same, we did a bunch of 3-bedrooms up in Hardwick. Again, that was town water, town sewer. So I think it does, you know, as you get into more rural areas and you're off of municipal services, particularly when it comes to sewer, there's more challenges there. And obviously you could stick with the bedroom type that was on there. And I know we've looked at that in the past. So increasing from a 2 to 3 bedroom might be an issue. It's definitely part of the conversation during the design phase.
Thank you. And my comment is, it's really great to hear what you're saying about that there are skilled maintenance people having to do with, that is a gigantic issue with some of the mobile, probably most of them, is finding someone who knows how to work, repair, maintain a mobile home. And this is one of the reasons, in my opinion, that more issues occur, is because they can't find anybody to help repair and maintain their home. And so, of course, because of that, there's more leakage. And in a mobile home, if you have wet, anything damp, then it spreads like wildfire, and then you have mold and mildew, and then it's an environmental issue.
Yep, no, absolutely right. We see that challenge, Gail, with a lot of the existing housing stock there. What I'm excited about with this new housing specification is we have, you know, real OSB sheathing. You know, we have all these different durability measures to minimize the concerns with, you know, wet areas and mold, mildew, with the proper ventilation systems. The way we install these homes, you know, all the water needs to be pitched away from the houses and the foundation system. So yeah, there's still a gap in regards to getting folks to service our existing housing stock outside of our weatherization agencies. And to be honest, the expertise is just not there. The best folks are our weatherization teams, and not many folks have that knowledge base and that experience. They're very complicated structures. So yeah, the new housing type will definitely help reduce the concerns that we're seeing you know, sort of show themselves in the existing housing types, you know, where they are dealing with moisture issues or ducts that weren't done very well and they're leaking, and you've got condensation and moisture. And yeah, but some of those Efficiency Vermont, we're working pretty hard trying to work with weatherization to get more contractors trained, so we can deal with the existing homes as well on more scale, which is obviously critical.
So that 145,000, that includes all the site work, everything to place a home on a lot?
Yep. The only additional cost on top of that would be if you have to remove a home. So that could be anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. So, you know, recommendations to this group. We did this early on with the Zero Energy Modular Program, cash for clunkers. This was the Vermont Low Income Trust of Energy, and we don't use their funding source for this use any longer, as it didn't align with their mission after a few years. We still utilize their funding to help buy down sort of the initial cost for affordable home ownership and affordable rental. But we had a cash for clunkers, so we would cover the $5,000 to $10,000 if you were buying one of the high efficiency homes and you had to recycle your home. We would help you do that correctly and cover that cost, so that wasn't a burden, because most folks didn't have that, or that would have eliminated their down payment, which they needed to participate in one of the programs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, any more questions? I guess not. Thank you very much, Peter. That was very good, very informative. And I'll be picking through the video myself when I get back.
Thanks for the invitation. Thanks, everyone.
And thanks for your work.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Yeah. Thank you for your work. All right, take care, everyone. Enjoy the week.
I guess the most important thing I want to get done right away before there's obviously an awful lot we can talk about and hear more about, but I want to get the schedule for the next meeting. The next meeting is November 3rd, which is what we've already scheduled from the last one at this same time, but it's the one after that. And we're looking, that would be the 4th, I believe, 4th meeting. And December 15th, roughly, we haven't set the date, but that's what I'm looking for is the last when we actually finalize or get a really firm rough draft on the report, which is due January 15th. So between now and December 16th, which would be, or mid-December, which would be the 6th meeting, we still have to schedule a 4th and a 5th. So the 4th one, I was thinking somewhere near the middle of November. What I'm thinking.
So this is the third.
Yeah,
This is the 3rd. So the 4th,
Fourth will be November
whoops.
3rd.
right.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
So the 4th meeting will be November 3rd. The 5th would be near the end of November or the beginning of December, and the 6th would be mid-December. Does that make sense?
Is the 15th a meeting?
Not
Or is
scheduled
that
yet.
when we
It's a target.
get, that's the target of the draft?
Yes.
But I think
For the draft.
my understanding was that would be the time when you would give us what you want the report to contain. Not that we would be producing a draft by that
Right,
time.
right.
Okay,
So, and then we go back, work on the draft, get it to you, first week of January-ish, that kind of thing. So you guys can look at it, see if you want to make changes and that sort of thing.
But we want to have, by that date, we want to have a firm idea of what's going into the report.
Definitely.
Very
Absolutely.
specific.
For sure.
But not actually writing, not
Right.
actually text on the report.
Yep.
That's the intention. So that meeting would be pretty much, most of it would be dealing with the report, the December 16th or mid-December report meeting would be mostly having to do with the report. So we want to have all the information collected by then and munched on. So I'm thinking the next one would be mid-November. And then the 5th one early in December, and the last one mid-December. So can we come up with does that sound good, a date?
so do we like Fridays? People seem to like. No?
Is that a no, Sandrine? Whoop, you're muted.
Yes, sorry. Friday in the morning, yes, but not the afternoon. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So November 17th, it would be 2 weeks after the 3rd?
I'm not sure whether I'll be able to make it or not that day. But, I might, so go ahead and schedule.
Or the 16th? Thursday?
Thursday I could.
November 16th will work. On November 16th, time? That's
We could do more at 10 o'clock.
a Thursday, right?
Mhm.
Is that bad for?
It's not good for me because I have Elkhart.
Oh,
But somebody else can step in for me.
I'll have a conflict that morning, but if that's the time that works best, I can join for part or all of meeting.
Well, we could also do Friday because I'm not sure I have a conflict.
what about the 15th?
The Wednesday.
I could do afternoon on the 15th or noon I've got a early morning commitment.
Could we do noon or?
I have conflicts on the 15th as well.
Should we do a doodle poll or how about the 14th? One last time.
Yeah.
I can't do the morning.
My eye is being operated on.
Oh,
14th.
okay, then we should let you do that.
Let's go back to what was the 16th where was the problem with the 16th?
I think Polly.
Yeah, it was just me, so I can join part of this meeting and part of my other meeting.
What time though? Is there a time on the 16th that you could do it?
My meeting starts at 10 and goes till 4.
Whoa.
Ugh.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
an awful meeting. Do you want to miss it? You can- I'll write you a note.
God.
I can take it up with this meeting and that'll be okay.
All right, if she can do that, because then everybody else.
Okay, 16th at what time then?
If I'm coming here, 10 works for me,
10 o'clock on the,
or later, just.
No,
'cause it's
11.
a drive.
that's,
And I'd be happy to carpool too with Brattleboro folks. Or
11.
anybody on the way. I'm sorry,
I can do 11.
you can do 11? Yeah, that's fine.
11 to 1:30, so
Yeah, we may eat in front of you, but that's
November
It's okay.
16th, 11 to 1:30. This length seemed to be adequate. I get kind of 2.5 hours is kind of long. But I mean, I think that's best.
yes.
We don't want to cut it shorter. Okay, we'll schedule that meeting and there'll probably be, or you want to shoot for the early December one as well? Let's do a target for early December. Well, we have a legislative briefing at 10 o'clock on December 1st.
So December.
How about like Monday, the 4th? Is Monday bad?
Monday's bad.
Okay.
Tuesday's good.
How about Tuesday, the 5th?
Mhm.
I can't do the morning.
Tuesday, the 5th in the afternoon. Going.
Yeah. 12:30 to 2.
Probably, yeah, I couldn't get here till noon, till 1, because I have a meeting that goes till 11.
So 1 to 3:30.
Yep.
Is that good for everybody? Are we all?
Yeah,
That's December 5th.
Holly, we nixing the housing recovery working group that day?
Thanks to the Housing Recovery Working Group.
Okay. All right, sounds like we're good.
Okay. Let's do those and we still have the mid-December one. That would, want to set that one now while we're at it?
I'm confused.
Okay.
Because November 3rd is a 4th meeting. November 16th is a 5th meeting.
No, the 16th of December is the last meeting, or around the 16th. We haven't set it yet. 5th meeting would be,
November 16th.
whoops, wait a minute, careful.
How many meetings do we have?
We
I
get
thought
six.
we get 6, okay.
So that's why I'm saying November 3rd is the 4th meeting. November 16th is the 5th meeting. And then that Tuesday, December 5th would be the 6th meeting.
Oh. So we run out of meetings.
Well, why don't we have everyone keep those dates open and we'll talk about the other things that we want to learn, right?
Mhm.
And can we use just a little bit of time now to talk about what we want to learn and who we want to hear from?
Of course.
And then we can figure out the schedule. And maybe if folks could hold the 15th, right? As a date also,
December.
December 15th.
That might be getting into a 7th meeting, is our.
Right, exactly. But if they hold it in the meantime, then we have it for giving direction on the report.
December.
Unless you want to be able to do that earlier than the 15th.
Friday.
No, I think that's fine.
So we'll hold 7 meetings, understanding that we don't have authorization for them. But if you could just keep it on your schedule, is that okay to do that?
Yes.
So the November 3rd, what time is that meeting at?
The same as this, 10 to 12:30.
10 to 12:30.
Will Charlene be sending out holds for all these times?
Doodle polls,
I think she said holds. You said holds, right? HOLDS?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, or I can even send an email. It's just an
Yeah.
email saying, just confirming this conversation, right? Is that what you're talking? Yes.
I can send an email.
But she has to reserve rooms and things like
Yeah.
that, so we'll get all that and make sure it all works and send out an email to everybody with the dates, with the schedules for the next meetings.
Did we say a time for the 15th of December?
15th of December.
No, you just said to hold the day, sort of.
Right. Would the 10 to 12:30 work for folks?
That's a,
Friday, did somebody say Friday morning didn't work for them? I thought.
Sandrine had difficulty with Friday mornings. Is that right?
No, it's Friday afternoons.
Ah,
All right.
So morning is fine. I can do 10 to 12:30.
okay, let's do that.
Okay.
All right, good.
Great.
Now,
Okay, actually.
Warren, you wanna
So, well,
talk a little bit about what we want to cover?
I guess, the more I learn, the more I want to learn. There's so much. And we haven't yet really talked about the conversion from, private to cooperative. And I think that's a conversation that we really need to have.
Well, CDI is next.
Okay, and they'll cover that.
Yes.
Okay.
That's at the next meeting, correct?
Yeah,
CGI
Okay.
At the 6th.
yeah.
Um,
And they might have some data also on infrastructure costs, which is another one of our charges there, I believe.
right. Now, right, and I was thinking we might want to hear from ANR if there's a big issue with water, sewer, septic, that we should know about that. So those of you who are in the field, is there an issue with those utilities and permits?
Always been.
Always.
Okay.
More expensive at that.
Okay, so do you think we should have them to have ANR in the permitting folks? And I don't know which area of ANR, I don't know if you do, but I know one of you or multiple of you know that.
That'd be DEC?
Yeah, I think as granular as we can get, as close to the permitting as we can get, to me would be the best.
A&R both has permitting and funding. Sean, do you know if those run through the same shop, or is that two different branches? Perhaps we can have an A&R person focused on funding and one focused on permitting.
Yeah, why don't I speak with Arthur Hamlin? Because I have a funny feeling that there's probably like 3 or 4 different people at A&R that have different jobs. So I'll see who best to sort of just so I understand, get sort of the understanding of the permitting process for upgrades, but perhaps also the just the oversight of like general health and safety as well as funding. So sort of those 3.
Mhm.
Yeah, and capacity. I mean, some of these, or a fair amount of these are on municipal systems, right? And there's a limited capacity, of funding for sure, of those systems. And Sean, my preference would be if there are multiple people in A&R who are dealing with this, and if they might say different things, let's get them all together in the same room so that they can talk to each other. Just to,
Yeah, we got time constraints.
I need to leave for my next meeting, so sorry, but good to see you all.
Yep,
okay.
You, Polly.
Hi, Polly.
yep.
Right, but we can actually have people speak even for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
If we
yeah.
have it, because it's better than ending up with an incomplete report.
But Sean, when you're asking, say these, we don't want a lot of detail. We want an understanding, but we are pressed for time on these meetings because we.
Yeah, I'll relay that and propose something.
Gail, you have.
Yeah, when you said that most of these are on municipal systems, that's not my understanding with the
No,
cooperatives.
Exactly.
Okay,
Not
okay,
all
I'm
of
sorry,
them.
yeah.
Some of
I have a
them.
lot to learn.
Yeah. Huh, okay.
Many of them, however, not to dive into the weeds, are considered public water systems because of the number of people they serve, but it's separate from a municipal system.
Right.
So A&R will be
Okay.
able to explain all of that.
Yes.
Over 25 served, yeah.
And Sean, I think that's in the data that you all have That data from UVM is great.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking to I'm hoping to get the thumbs up from the UVM folks to share their latest. They've done some increased work since then. That's about to be published. So a lot to dive into.
Wow.
Well, you have some time next week, next meeting, aren't you on there?
I was waiting to see if I made the agenda next time.
Yes. Yeah, you were going to go over the 3-year report
Yep,
and maybe the risk assessment tool if possible.
sure. Yep.
And if they, what, does the data that UVM has now, or the, whatever they're doing, the research, does it have recommendations on what should be done?
I have not seen the report, so I haven't seen the narrative. I've only seen spreadsheets and maps, so I'm not sure how far they go into recommendations versus just an analysis of the status.
Okay, well, if there ever are recommendations, I'd like to see them. I'm sure you would.
Yeah,
Of course.
The other pocket that we're trying to fill is getting more. I mean, I think Gail's input today was obviously very helpful. And there are 2 or 3 other residents of mobile home parks that say they're willing, they would like to sit in and make comments and things like this too. So I was trying to figure out how we might balance some time, at least for them to comment.
Great.
So, which I was thinking might be the next meeting, because that's when CDI will be here and it kind of fits into the conversion process as well, going to a co-op. So I'll try to schedule some time for that next meeting. How are we doing, by the way, just everybody in terms of the pace of the meetings? Are people feeling like we're running out of time, or are we wasting time on too many details, or?
No, it has been good, but today we had like 30 minutes, like, we should have time for I don't know, side or emergency subject that we can put on the table and discuss very quickly when we have those gap of time to be more effective, because we don't have enough time, I think, to really, get into all that we want to get into.
Mhm.
Right. And I want to get more in, I want to hear more from you all too.
But the good thing is that Sean and I, we can jump in anytime.
Okay. Well, please do. Please feel free to jump in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just one suggestion I'd make is that I'm looking at the 6 identified tasks that are in the committee's mandate in the legislation. I would just suggest that as much as possible, already start thinking about what findings and recommendations you want to go on that report. Don't save it for that December 15th meeting. Think now.
Yes.
You know, like, and start and jot them down.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but think, yeah.
So finding A, recommendation based on that finding, whatever it may be. So,
Yes.
good.
Okay.
Glad to see you're already on it.
Or I think, but if you have suggestions, specific suggestions too, let us know.
Yeah, we need to have direction from you on that.
Understand,
Yeah,
understand, because it's more, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think that should about do it. Till the next time, take us off.
Good meeting. Thank you.